Sport Channel TV here at Florida State Media Day. We're here with defensive coordinator Charles Kelly. And Coach, I've been talking a lot of the defensive players here, and I'm just amazed at not only the veterans you have and all the depth you have. Is this, as the time you've been associated with the defense, is this maybe the deepest defense you've been around?
Probably, since I've been here, it's probably more experience coming back, guys that have played. Anytime, the only way you get better and the only way you learn how to play this game is to play the game. So when you have that experience, it definitely gives you, doesn't give you any guarantees, because what you did yesterday, you got to go out and do it tomorrow. So we're, I'm excited about the guys we got coming back, and anytime you got guys that have played in those situations and the games that they played in, it definitely helps you.
I just want to go through position by position with you, starting out the interior of the defensive line, to have a Derek Noddy, to have a DeMarcus Christmas, and then again all the depth. It's crazy. You're three deep there, and then you bring in the #1 defensive tackle in the country, and Marvin Wilson. I mean, and I know Coach Fisher always talks about starts really. I mean, he puts a big emphasis on having those guys. What does that do for your defense to not only have all the talent and the experience and depth?
Well, I think Odell does a great job of evaluation and development. I mean, that's. You can really see Derek Noddy and DeMarcus Christmas. You can see their growth, which is that pleases you as a coach. And then, like you said, you got Fred Jones and Wally. You got Cedric Wood in there, who has really gotten better. And then again, we've been excited about what we've seen by the young players. So it does start up front. I mean, pretty much any team sport that you play, you got to be strong up the middle first. You got to build it from inside out, and I'm excited about where those guys are at.
Now moving to the outside, you lose a pretty good player in DeMarcus Walker, obviously, but at least you guys have recruited pretty well. You've got Brian Burns, we talked to a little while ago. You got Josh Sweat, and you got, again, a #1 defensive end in the country coming in, Josh Kando. What are the prospects for that position?
Well, I think I think we saw a lot of things from Brian Burns last year. I think anytime you see a freshman play the way he did, you know that he can process the game, and that's critical for a young player. Josh Sweat's gotten better and better every year, I see you can look at Brian Burns right now. You see him; his body looks different. I mean, he's growing. He's very talented and he's very smart. Josh can play. He's very multiple in what he can do. I mean, very strong. And Josh Kando, he's done great. I mean, he's willing to learn. He really loves football. And to watch, Janaris Robinson and Jalen Wilkerson, those guys, to see them develop we got to develop that consistency every day.
We talked to Brian earlier, and he kind of admitted the one area he needs to work on is run defense. Because you see Josh Sweat on the other end, people are probably going to try to run him a little bit more this year because he was a third down guy last year. How is that coming along for him?
I think the fact that he told you that's what he needed to work on. I think he knows that. Yeah. And it's not that he can't do it. It's that sometimes when you're used in those pass rush situations, you think that's all you do. So I think he understands it. I know he does, and I think he'll be one of those guys that works and gets better and better.
As a guy's coach of linebackers for, you got to love seeing three seniors as your starters right there. And again, coming from it seemed like a year ago, but it's inexperience, and now you have all that experience there. You saw what Matthew Thomas did at the end of everything else. How helpful is that to defense to have three guys that really know what they're doing there?
Well, there's no doubt, the experience in the games that these guys have played in, and knowing that they've been productive in games, that kind of gives you it should give them some confidence. Is, hey, if I do what I'm supposed to do every day, then I got a chance to be productive. I think, Jacob Pugh has just gotten better and better and better. Matthew Thomas, like you mentioned, played really good down the stretch, played great in the Orange Bowl, and Roderick Hoskins has been very consistent guy for us. I think Jacob gives us a lot of, multiplicity in the things that you can do. He's a good guy that can rush, and Matthew's also a good blitzer. But they can also cover, and that, when you can do those things, it definitely helps you as a linebacker.
With Matthew, is it just a function of like a light bulb just turned on? Sometimes it seems like with some players, it kind of clicks in finally.
And I think sometimes when, when you're playing behind the line of scrimmage, there's a lot of things going on in there. I mean, it's different than just lining up on the edge and playing. There's so many things to process in there, but he's really worked at it and has taken pride in, getting better at it. That's the thing that I've seen is, in the meetings, you can see him, really working and asking questions, if he doesn't understand something. But I think the main thing, because of your eyes, where you're at of processing all that and reacting and playing fast. That's, people ask me about, you go back and talk about Telvin, wasn't very big as far as weight, but I said, well, what made him so good? Well, he could process the play early and react.
Sure.
And to me, that's the key to playing.
And then that secondary, obviously, I know it was a disadvantage last year. You had a bunch of injuries back there, but a bunch of the young guys got playing time. Now you got the young guys and you got veterans like, obviously Derwin James back there. So how good is the secondary going to be this year?
Well, I think, what I've tried to emphasize to them, too, you can't base anything on what you've done in the past. What you do today and tomorrow. We have talent at a lot of positions, and we have experience at a lot of positions. You're right. Some of those guys that got, I think on the last play of the game in the Orange Bowl, we had 3 true freshmen in the game, and which is good. Because again, you learn the speed of the game, how to win those games. That's as important in development as anything. Biggest thing is you can't be satisfied, and I think you've talked to Derwin a good bit in the past. He's one of those guys that he wants to get better and better, and that, with his leadership ability, he influences other guys to do the same thing. So that's what our focus is on is, listen, I've told them, you live in a box. You worry about doing what you're supposed to do, not what anybody says about you or talks about you. You got to do your job every day.
I'm going to talk for you for a while, but beginning of last year, obviously you guys struggled quite a bit. Very different defense by the end of the year. What was going on early in the year? What did you guys how did you right the ship?
Well, I think there were a few different things that went on, and sometimes it's a perfect storm. And again, you've heard me say before, I'm not going to make excuses about it. Our job is to coach good, and our job is to play good. And we didn't do that in some situations early. I do think I don't think you dwell on the past, but you got to learn from the past. And going back and looking at those, where we really struggled. What was amazing, there was a lot of opportunities in those struggles to make some plays that might have changed the game. And when you make those plays, it creates momentum for you. And when you make plays, that's where confidence comes from. Confidence is not something you just make up. It's by doing it.
Right.
And I think once and again, we had some young guys that came on and, developed and played better down the stretch.
I was going to ask you about going against Alabama. They've got a new offensive coordinator, Brian Dabble. What have you looked at some of his NFL stuff? How do you when a new coordinator comes into a program, how do you do that?
Yeah, and you kind of you look at where he's been, even the years. Not only he was a position coach, but when he was a coordinator before. But I believe this. I believe Coach Saban is. He's going to have a lot of input. Coach Saban's he's going to do what he does. And that's why he's been successful as he's been. Very similar to how Jimbo is. It's going to, you're going to see a lot of the same type. You're going to see some different formations and different schemes, but the way they approach things is going to be very similar. They're going to be very good on the offensive line. They're always going to have very good running backs, which they do. Mm-hmm. They've got guys on the outside that can stretch the field, and they got a sophomore quarterback that, he was freshman of the year last year, and so they got great players at every position, and they're very well coached, so it's a big challenge for us.
Fisher, last thing I want to ask you, it always stresses it, but one game at a time, one game at a time, and I get that, but for this one, the guys have to be a little bit more focused. It's human nature, and you're playing the number one team in the country to open the season.
And because it's the first game, and now it's because it's the next game. I think that the thing you get in camp is right now you want to develop on how you play. Mm-hmm. Worry about you, getting better at what you do. And I believe this with all my heart, and just like Jimbo preaches it, if you do the little things right, the results will come.
Right.
And that's what we've got to, and that's another thing with experience. Experience teaches you that, When you're young, you think it's just all about the interception or it's all about the sack. But, really, when Jimbo says it all the time, play doesn't care who makes it. When it's your opportunity, you got to make it.
Sounds good. Charles Kelly, Florida State defensive coordinator. Thanks for your time, buddy.